Ever wondered how boats from the early 1900s still sail with such grace? Today we're diving into the timeless world of antique vessels, from the 1921 Ventnor to the iconic Garwood 1947 Deluxe Runabout Victory, straight out of the legacy of the Lakes Museum in Minnesota. We'll be looking at rare finds, exploring features, and even revealing a few secrets. Ready to set sail on a journey back in time? Let's start with number 7. Let's kick things off with a boat that some enthusiasts might call the hidden gem of early American boating. The Falls Flyer was produced by Larson Boat Works, originally located near the site where the legacy of the Lakes Museum stands in Minnesota. If you've ever visited the museum, you may have seen references to the early prototypes and how their lightweight designs allowed them to, quite literally, fly across the water, hence the name. What sets the Falls Flyer apart? Its sleek mahogany hull and innovative design make it a standout. During the early 1900s, boat builders were experimenting with hull shapes. Larson prioritized speed and style, proving small engines could deliver big thrills. Owners could glide across lakes with low horsepower motors, earning the boat a reputation for accessible, high-speed fun. However, a bit of controversy surrounds the Falls Flyer. Some historians suggest Larson borrowed design elements from rival boat makers without acknowledgement. While unproven, it remains a topic of debate at classic boat shows. Whether design theft or a natural convergence in a niche industry, the Falls Flyer set new standards with its streamlined hull and impressive speed for its time. Critics note its maintenance challenges. Mahogany requires constant care to avoid rot and water damage, but fans embrace this as part of its charm. Antique boats demand commitments, and the Falls Flyer rewards that dedication with its timeless design and captivating story. It's no wonder it remains a museum favorite, celebrated for its innovation, beauty, and enduring allure. Stepping up next is the 1920 Ventnor, a name that's practically synonymous with racing heritage. Ventnor Boat Works became legendary for producing sleek speedboats that dominated competition circuits. If you wander the halls of the legacy of the Lakes Museum, you'll see notes on how Ventnor craftsmen prided themselves on precision and craftsmanship, obsessively so. Legend has it that if a plank didn't fit just right, they'd scrap it and start over. Talk about dedication. Performance was king for the Ventnor brand, and the 1921 model was no exception. Early versions boasted advanced hull designs intended to reduce drag, resulting in top speeds that would make onlookers do a double take. Many folks might assume that speedboats only became popular after the 1950s, but Ventnor was out to prove them wrong decades earlier. The boat's long, slender hull not only gave it speed, but also contributed to an unmatched smooth ride for its time. Of course, not everyone was head over heels for the Ventnor approach. Some classic boat enthusiasts griped that focusing so heavily on speed led to compromises in comfort, especially if you weren't the pilot. Passengers often ended up soaked if the water was choppy, and the seats were known to be less plush than certain other brands. But then again, if you were buying a Ventnor, you probably weren't in it for the cushy seats. You wanted to break records and earn bragging rights at the local marina. In fact, you might even hear a rumor that wealthy boat racers commissioned private, custom-built Ventnors that quietly pushed the speed envelope further than any competitor. True or not, Ventnor still has that aura of exclusivity and performance fanaticism that resonates with those who love to go fast, even a century later. Now let's talk about a boat that might sound more like an amusement park ride, the Aqualoop. This oddball from the early 1900s has a name that sparks curiosity, but it's surprisingly rare. Some experts argue that only a handful were ever produced, and the legacy of the Lakes Museum has references that confirm it was something of an experimental concept by a small-time inventor named Grant Holloway. The gist was to create a boat capable of radical maneuvers, loops if you will, in calm lake waters. Reality check. Looping an early 1900s boat might sound more like a comedic circus act than anything feasible, and all for the big talk. The Aqualoop never really did a full loop. It did, however, employ a pivoting hull design that allowed it to tilt sharply and even spin in tight circles. No one was going upside down, but it was still pretty eye-catching for its era. If you ever track down a surviving model, you'll notice an unusual set of fins on the underside. Those fins helped with the quick turns, though many owners reported mechanical issues whenever they tried to push the boat too hard. Naturally, the Aqualoop was a magnet for controversies. Some said it was unsafe because the hull design was prone to cracking under strain. Others claimed that the marketing was misleading, implying you'd be doing flips like a stunt pilot. Surprise, you were just spinning around like a top. But that sense of playful showmanship has cemented the Aqualoop's legacy among boat collectors who appreciate an eccentric footnote in marine history. Its selling point was novelty. Who else on the lake had a boat that even pretended to do loops? Sure, it wasn't the best at stable cruising, and you might have had to cross your fingers each time you cranked the motor, but at least you'd never be accused of being boring. Next, we come to the legendary Garwood brand, and specifically the 1947 Deluxe Runabout Victory. Garwood boats are revered among collectors, partly because Garwood himself was an inventor and businessman who captured the public's imagination. His speed records were the stuff of headlines, and by the time this 1947 model rolled around, the brand had refined its style to near perfection. So what sets the Deluxe Runabout Victory apart? A hallmark of Garwood craftsmanship is the deep mahogany finish, which when polished can reflect the sunlight with an almost mirror-like gleam. The boat often came with an inboard engine that, while not monstrous by today's standards, delivered a gutsy roar back in its heyday. It was known for its smooth ride and ample seating, meaning you didn't have to sacrifice comfort for style. Many owners brag about how well their Garwood navigates tight corners with minimal bow rise, something that remains impressive for a vintage craft. But was it all sunshine and perfect Sunday cruises? Well, some critics argue that Garwood priced their boats so high they missed out on everyday boaters, effectively turning them into trophies for the wealthy. Others point to the boat's weight. While it added stability, it also meant a heftier haul and greater fuel consumption. If you had the money though, few boats looked as stately or had the same reputation for reliability. The legacy of the Lakes Museum frequently highlights Garwood's influence on boat design, especially in how they popularized certain streamlined silhouettes. The 1947 Deluxe Runabout Victory is a prime example of a post-war dream machine, just flashy enough to draw stares, but serious enough to handle real water adventures. Whether you're in it for the speed, the elegance, or the brand's pioneering history, it's pretty tough to top a classic Garwood. The next star is the 1930 Dodge Split Cockpit Runabout, which sounds like an automobile brand jumped into boating, and that's exactly what happened. The Dodge family, known for their cars, also tried their hand at boat manufacturing, albeit briefly. The legacy of the Lakes Museum notes that while many visitors instantly associate the Dodge name with automobiles, they're often surprised to learn about the company's fleeting foray into wooden runabouts. The split cockpit layout is the main feature that gets people talking. Why split the cockpit? For one, it allowed the driver a separate, more enclosed space, while passengers lounged in a distinct section. It might seem quirky by modern standards, but in the 1930s, this was a creative way to give the driver a cockpit-like feel. Think boat pilot with a dash of automobile flair. Not surprisingly, the craftsmanship echoed some of the aesthetics of classic Dodge cars, from polished hardware to upholstery that felt akin to vintage car seating. Now for the downsides. There's a running joke among some collectors that the Dodge boat line was the ultimate example of stick to what you know. While the runabouts were visually striking, some owners complained about quirky mechanical issues, partly because the brand was trying to fuse automobile engineering with marine demands. One real annoyance was the weight of the hull. Though durable, it made these boats slower than some of their competitors. Then there's the matter of maintenance. Despite top-notch varnish and high-quality wood, certain models had a reputation for deck leaks at the seams. Yet to many, these small gripes are overshadowed by the novelty of owning a piece of Dodge history that isn't on four wheels. That's the fun of it, right? If you're a collector, you can stand out with a boat that few others have even heard of, let alone owned. The 1926 Hacker craft, often debated for its proper name due to variations over time, is universally celebrated as one of the most elegant boat designs of the early 20th century. Designed by John L. Hacker, these boats earned the moniker Floating Art, a nod to their blend of beauty and performance. Hacker's innovation was evident in the refined V-bottom hull, delivering speed and stability for smooth gliding across lakes, even in choppy conditions. Remarkably, some owners claim the nearly century-old design still feels modern under power. The boat's luxurious interior, featuring fine woods and plush seating, made it a favorite among the affluent, for whom boating was a glamorous pastime. However, this elegance came at a cost. The 1926 models, often compared to vintage Rolls-Royces, required meticulous maintenance and were notoriously expensive to keep in top condition. Mechanical quirks and the labor-intensive care of the wooden hull were challenges for all but the most dedicated enthusiasts. Controversy surrounds Hacker's legacy, with claims of borrowed design elements sparking debate, though many argue it was competitors who imitated his work. Regardless, the 1926 Hacker craft remains a symbol of Gatsby-era sophistication, captivating boat lovers with its timeless allure. Spotted at venues like the Legacy of the Lakes Museum or gliding across water, these boats are a testament to the enduring appeal of exceptional craftsmanship. Our top pick is the Garwood 1937 Cabin Utility, a standout in recreational boating history. Unlike Garwood's signature open-air runabouts, this model introduced a family-friendly design with a cozy cabin space, perfect for overnight stays or bad weather. Think of it as a floating cottage, complete with polished wood and a warm, inviting interior. This boat marked a turning point in boating, blending comfort and style in one luxurious package. Families could enjoy extended trips on scenic waters like Lake Minnetonka without sacrificing comfort or protection from the elements. With large windows for natural light, a well-thought-out layout, and enough horsepower for a bit of speed, it redefined recreational boating. Critics might argue the added cabin compromised the sleek, nimble runabout silhouette. The extra weight and bulk did reduce agility, and some owners reported water leaks around the cabin edges due to wooden expansion and contraction. Poor maintenance could lead to a soggy interior, a drawback for any wooden boat. However, for those who cared for them, the cabin utility struck the perfect balance between the thrill of a runabout and the comfort of a small cruiser. To many collectors, it epitomizes Garwood's ambition to make boating versatile and accessible. Celebrated by the Legacy of the Lakes Museum as a family-friendly design with iconic Garwood style, the 1939 cabin utility remains a timeless classic and a testament to innovation in recreational boating. So there you have it, 7 antique boats that defied time and logic to keep on sailing, each with its own bit of controversy, charm, and proven track record. If you ever find yourself in Minnesota, I highly recommend checking out the Legacy of the Lakes Museum to see firsthand how these vessels influenced boating culture. There's nothing like standing next to these classics and imagining the stories they could tell. Stories of races won, families bonding under the summer sun, and boat makers who poured heart and soul into every plank of wood. Thanks for watching. If you're new around here, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into classic vehicles, vintage treasures, and all things historically cool on the water. Safe sailing, and we'll see you next time.